She fell in love with his smile before she ever knew his name. In a world obsessed with status and wealth, Emma chose a man who served coffee for a living, never imagining that beneath his apron lay a fortune worth billions. But love, as she would soon discover, has a way of revealing truths that shatter everything we think we know about ourselves and the people we trust. Emma Richardson had always believed in the beauty of simple things. At 26, she worked as a librarian in downtown Boston, spending her days surrounded by books and the quiet company of words that had outlived their authors. Her life was modest but content, a deliberate choice after watching her mother chase wealthy men her entire life, only to end up alone and bitter. Emma had promised herself she would never measure a person's worth by their bank account. She would choose love over luxury, authenticity over appearance. It was a promise that would be tested in ways she could never have imagined. The cafe where she met him was nothing special, just a corner spot called Rosie's where the coffee was strong and the pastries were fresh. She went there every morning before work, always ordering the same thing, a cappuccino and a blueberry muffin. And every morning for 3 weeks, the same waiter took her order. His name tag read James, and he had the kindest eyes she had ever seen, warm and brown like autumn leaves. He remembered her order after the second day, and by the end of the first week he was making small talk that brightened her mornings more than the caffeine ever could. If you believe that true love sees beyond appearances and that kindness matters more than status, please like this video, leave a comment about your thoughts on genuine connection, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt tales that remind us what really matters in life. James was different from anyone Emma had ever met. He listened when she talked about the book she was reading, asked thoughtful questions about her dreams, and shared stories about his own life that made her laugh until her sides hurt. He told her about growing up in a small town, about learning the value of hard work from his grandfather, about how he believed that serving people was one of the noblest things a person could do. There was a depth to him that Emma found intoxicating, a wisdom that seemed beyond his years. When he finally asked her out after a month of morning conversations, she said yes without hesitation. Their first date was a walk through Boston Common, followed by pizza from a food truck. James insisted on paying, though Emma could tell money was tight for him by the way he carefully counted his bills. It didn't matter to her. They talked for hours, sitting on a bench as the sun set, and when he finally kissed her, Emma felt something she had only read about in novels, a certainty that she had found the person she was meant to find. Over the following months, their relationship deepened into something precious and rare. James worked long hours at the cafe, often taking double shifts, and Emma admired his work ethic, even as she wished they had more time together. He lived in a tiny studio apartment with barely any furniture, but he kept it immaculately clean. He was saving money, he told her, for something important, though he never specified what. Emma introduced James to her friends, and while they were polite, she could see the judgment in their eyes. Her best friend Rachel pulled her aside one evening and asked point-blank why she was wasting her time with a waiter when she could do so much better. Emma's response was firm and immediate. James made her happier than any wealthy man ever could. She didn't need luxury vacations or expensive restaurants. She needed someone who saw her, really saw her, and loved what he found. James was that person. What she didn't know was that James Alexander Morrison was struggling with his own deceptions and doubts. The truth was that James had never been just a waiter. He was the sole heir to Morrison Industries, a multinational corporation worth over $7 billion. After his father's death 2 years earlier, James had inherited everything, but the weight of that wealth had nearly crushed him. Everyone he met wanted something from him. Every relationship felt transactional, every smile calculated. He had grown so tired of being valued for his money rather than himself that he had made a radical decision. He would step away from his public life, let his team of executives run the company, and find out who he really was beneath the expectations and the fortune. He took a job at Rosie's Cafe under a false last name, rented a modest apartment, and began living the life he had always wondered about. When he met Emma, James had been working at the cafe for 2 months and had nearly given up on his experiment. But something about her struck him immediately. She was genuine in a way that felt almost revolutionary. She treated him with respect and kindness not because of what he could do for her, but simply because that was who she was. As they grew closer, James found himself falling in love with her authenticity, her passion for literature, her fierce independence, and the way she looked at the world with equal parts hope and realism. But every day that passed made his deception feel heavier. He told himself he would reveal the truth soon, but the fear of losing her kept him silent. What if she felt betrayed? What if she thought he had been playing games with her heart? What if she was just like all the others after all? The moment of truth came on a cold November evening, 6 months into their relationship. Emma had been walking downtown after work when she passed by a massive billboard announcing the Morrison Industries annual charity gala. The face staring back at her from that billboard made her heart stop. It was James. Not just resembling James, but actually him, dressed in an expensive suit with his name printed in bold letters, James Alexander Morrison, CEO. Emma stood frozen on the sidewalk as pedestrians flowed around her, her mind struggling to process what her eyes were seeing. The man she loved, the man who counted dollar bills carefully to buy pizza, was one of the richest men in the country. The betrayal cut deeper than any pain Emma had ever known. She felt like a fool, like the punchline to some cruel joke. Had he been laughing at her this whole time, documenting the life of a naive librarian who fell for his little social experiment? She went home and cried until she had no tears left. Then she blocked his number and avoided the cafe entirely. James tried everything to reach her. He sent letters to her apartment, flowers to her work, and finally showed up at the library 3 days after she had discovered his identity. Emma agreed to hear him out only because he was causing a scene that was disturbing the other patrons. They sat in a private study room, and for the first time since Emma had known him, James looked truly vulnerable. He explained everything: the crushing loneliness of his wealth, the emptiness of relationships built on greed, his desperate need to be loved for himself rather than his fortune. He told her that meeting her had changed everything, that her love had been the most real thing in his life, and that he had been terrified of losing it. He apologized for the deception, acknowledging that he had been wrong to lie, that he had stolen her right to make an informed choice about their relationship. But he swore that everything else had been true: his feelings, his dreams, his love for her. None of that had been an act. Emma listened, her heart at war with her mind. Part of her wanted to forgive him immediately, but another part felt the sting of betrayal too keenly. She told him she needed time, and James nodded, leaving without argument. Over the following weeks, Emma did a lot of thinking. She examined her own prejudices and realized that she had been so determined not to be like her mother that she had developed her own form of judgment, dismissing wealthy people as shallow without knowing them. James had been wrong to lie, but his reasons were understandable. He had been searching for the same thing she had been searching for: authentic love. The night Emma showed up at James's real home, a stunning penthouse overlooking the harbor, he answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his eyes red from lack of sleep. Emma didn't say anything at first. She just stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, and James held her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the earth. They talked through the night, rebuilding trust brick by careful brick. Emma told him that she could forgive the deception, but moving forward, there could be no more secrets between them. James agreed without hesitation, and he kept that promise. Their relationship wasn't perfect after that, but it was real. James returned to his role at Morrison Industries, but he remained committed to using his wealth for genuine good, funding literacy programs in Emma's honor and ensuring his employees received fair wages and benefits. Emma continued working at the library because it brought her joy, though she no longer had to worry about making rent. They learned to navigate the complications of his public life together, united by the love they had built when status and wealth hadn't mattered. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that real love requires honesty, vulnerability, and seeing beyond the surface, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments about what true love means to you, and share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that authentic connection is worth fighting for. 2 years later, James proposed to Emma in Rosie's cafe, getting down on one knee in the same spot where he had first taken her. Order. The ring was extravagant, but the moment was simple and perfect. Emma said yes through tears of joy, and the handful of morning customers applauded. As they left the cafe hand in hand, Emma realized that she had been wrong about one thing. Love wasn't about choosing simplicity over luxury or authenticity over appearance. Love was about choosing to see the whole person, flaws and deceptions and truth and all, and deciding they were worth the risk. Please comment below. Would you have forgiven him? Let us know your thoughts. In the end, Emma hadn't fallen in love with a billionaire disguised as a waiter. She had fallen in love with a lonely man who had been searching for someone to see his heart, and she had given him the greatest gift of all. She had looked past everything else and found him.